Welcome to the Daily Edge. I am Steve Nudelberg, proud to be in the seat today. Proud to also be sitting next to my friend, WWE veteran wrestler, Chaz Warrington, friend of the firm, client, great all-around dude, who's going to talk to us today about high-pressure situations, showing up and being genuine to yourself, and transitioning from sports to business. Let's find our edge. Let's find our edge. Always starts with our affirmation. Today, I don't run from the fight. I rise to it. Every challenge is a chance to become a stronger version of myself today rather than yesterday. Bang, Chaz. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Great to be here. This is awesome. This is a great setup right here.
So, Chaz, you have done every one of our podcasts dating back to when it was Tell Me Something Good. I think you did that. You did the Daily Huddle.
I did the hot seat.
You did the hot seat.
The hot seat.
So, like I said, welcome. Tell us what's happening.
Lots are happening. Just transitioning into different things. Dex is great. At the same time, I'm doing a lot of other coaching things as far as wrestling goes. I have that Legends contract with WWE, which has now given me the opportunity to go up to Orlando and work at the Performance Center that they have. And you don't know the Performance Center is where they're training the next generation of superstars.
All right, so I'm going right for the guts because when we first met, I got introduced to you at Dex Imaging, which is I think the country's largest.
We are the largest vendor, the distributor of office equipment in the United States.
So you asked me a question the first day. You go, hey, I really do want to promote my brand, but I'm a famous wrestler. Right?
I don't use it.
What do you mean I'm a famous wrestler? So for the audience, tell them what your character is and a little bit of your journey at WWE.
So I've been professional wrestling for 32 years. I started June of 93. I just finished a book on it, so we'll be talking about that also. But yeah, I didn't know how to use it business-wise, so I hid from it for the longest time until we met. And I said to Steve came in with LinkedIn Like a Pro to teach us that. And I sat there going, I know there's something with LinkedIn, I just don't know how to use it. And the first thing he said is like, well, what do you do? What do you have? And I'm like, well, I'm a wrestler. And he was like, you were like, what do you mean? And you're not using that? I'm like, no, my fear was that I had one bad experience cold calling when I first started. I walked into an attorney's office and the attorney basically said to me, he goes, oh, you couldn't have been that good of a wrestler because now you're out here like trying to sell me a copier. And I was like,
how wrong could that guy be?
Real wrong. So then my comeback was great because I looked at him and I said, well, you can't be that good of a lawyer because you're sitting at the reception desks.
Love it.
So that made me hide from it though, because my fear was because when I wrestle, I wear a skirt. Real men wear skirts.
Well, what's your character? So let's inform the audience.
I wrestle as a tag team, the Headbangers. It's heavy metal music. It was
with grunge, makeup,
90s face paint, heavy metal T-shirt, Marilyn Manson, Metallica T-shirts. I wrestle in skirts, combat boots. So the look is goofy. So my fear was if somebody Googles me that I have a meeting with, let's say Andrew Koenig of City Furniture, and he looks at me and he goes, why am I meeting with this guy? He's a goof. So I hid from it until I met you and you were like, no, you need to embrace it. And here's how you do it. To be authentic to yourself, you need to be genuine. Once I started using that, I figured out that I had the greatest icebreaker in the world. And business for me just It took off.
So there are lessons that athletes take into the business world all the time. Give us a sense of what you learned, because I know your memoir is coming out. I love that the fact that you're putting it in words. We talked about only 1% of the population converts their thoughts to written, to books. So good for you. But what are some of those things that you learned in your career that you've taken to the business world?
Well, first of all, wrestling is... People say to me, "Oh, I'm not a salesperson. I don't know how you could be sales." That's bullshit. Everyone sells. Everyone's a salesperson. You're a salesperson from the time you're a kid because you're selling your parents on why you need the Nikes, why you need this bike, why you need that. Wrestling was selling. So I knew how to sell. I can get a story across. The other part of wrestling was, and you hear this all the time in sports, embracing the grind. It's a grind. It's not easy because you talk about the 1%. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know that went to wrestling school that never made it to where I made it, and I made it to the top. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm a former WWF, it's WWE now, but it was WWF tag team champion. I was ranked the second tag team in the world for a year. So
did you need to be in shape to do that?
You had to work out a little. You had to work out a little.
You're huge, man. I wouldn't get in the ring with you.
You had to learn. But I think one of the biggest lessons I learned was you listen to everyone. Because I'd get done a match because I started out in the minor leagues. I was in Memphis for 6 months. I lived in Arkansas for a year. Then I was in Knoxville for another 6 or 7 months. You're in all these different territories with all these veterans who had been there, who had done that. And you get done a match, you're in the locker room. I actually just talked about this on my podcast the other day that a lot of guys learn more on the driving with a veteran, talking and sharing stories.
Oh, there's
than
a
actually
lesson
being
in
the ring.
business there, boy.
Yes,
right?
By actually learning. But the biggest thing was for me at that point, I know who I am and I know what I want to portray in the ring. So I had to take everything they said, digest it, and whatever it was bullshit or didn't work for me, I had to shit out. I had to get rid of. And then whatever worked for me, I would take and I would brace and I would use. So that's one of the biggest things that I got out of wrestling to take into sales because, again, I sell differently than everyone else. I don't consider myself a salesperson. I come to you, you have a problem, I have a solution. Do you want to do it, yes or no? I mean, to me, it's that simple. It's not rocket science. It
really is. I love the fact that you talked about learning before doing, and I think, people have asked me, I've been doing this my whole life. It's a craft. I'm constantly learning. People call me an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm a student. I was willing to learn. You were willing to learn at wrestling. You were willing to learn in sales. When I came in, you weren't one of those guys, which there were many, who said, hey, there's nothing you can teach me. I've been doing this, and this is how we do it. And, so you were willing to open up to that. I'm sure not every wrestler was that way.
There's still guys that, I just did an independent show in Staten Island a couple weeks ago.
You're still wrestling.
Still wrestling.
Tell people
yes, I'm still wrestling. I'm still in the ring.
People still pay to come and see you and wait for your autograph.
The best part is people were booing us and they were talking smack. I had the microphone and I'm like, listen, you paid to see me, so I'm going to sit here and say whatever I want to you. So it doesn't matter.
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's just... Yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that.
No, listen, the parallels between athletics and sports, you needed to show up every time in the ring being your best. Right. Michael Jordan talked about it as being the zone, showing up as a 10 is how I referred to it. So you take those lessons and you apply them to your business life. You apply them to your life as a dad. What are some of those crossovers?
Some of the crossovers is really just listening. Like now I remember where I was going with that other tangent of being at Staten Island.
That's what happens when you get hit in the head a couple of times.
Yeah, just a few. Staten Island, like there's kids there where I would pull them aside and go, hey, I saw your match. I'm very detailed oriented. Details separate. So you have good people, you have medium people, and then you have like the really good people. The really good people, it's the details that separate everyone. So I was pulling people aside going, listen, you did this well, but if you just tweak this a little, I know. Well, if you know, why didn't you do it?
Right.
So
I love people who say, yeah, I do that already.
And the people that, as soon as they say, I know, I go, okay, and I walk away. Like so to me, it's about listening and being open to that. But for me, like even as a parent, I had a great childhood. I was anything I wanted, I had. The only trying to think of a way to say this right. So my dad was there financially, but not there presently.
Okay.
And then there was a lot of things that
He did the best he could.
He did the best he could with what he knew.
Right.
And one of the things I say about my son, because people tell, "Oh, you're such a great dad," and I go, "Yeah, that thanks to my dad." And I go, well, how? I go, well, when something happened with Tyler, I would think, what would my dad do? And I did the opposite.
Yeah.
I did the opposite.
There's a lot of things you learn from people who do it the wrong way. Mark talks about in his coaching career, he was with coaches that did it wrong. It informed him to do it right, but you were paying attention.
Yes, you pay attention, you break the mold. And again, it goes back to, you know who you are. And you know what works for you and you know what doesn't work for you. You have to take that and make it, whatever you're learning, and make it you. Because you got to be genuine, you got to be authentic to yourself. That's the only way it works.
Of anything that we've worked on over the years, I love that you're focused on genuine and authentic, because it works every time. The minute you are not, people's bullshit meter goes away. This is just another one of those guys. We talked about your transition from wrestling to business. Your business is really, really good with Dex.
Business is great. Jody and I just won top team of the year, highest revenue ever.
So you're sporting a new...
I got my Apple Watch on today, but yes, I got the Rolex. Jody and I now have the highest number ever in Dex of revenue, which is $6.5 million.
Pretty crazy.
And I've now won manager and team of the year.
Which, success leaves clues. Now you want to spread your wings a little bit. What was the motivation in writing the book?
Part of it was a really good friend of mine. His name's Pete Gass. He was part of the Mean Street Posse, a good friend of Shane McMahon's. He came in and he wrote a book. And my thought always was, people would say, "No, you should write a book." And I'm like, half the shit I would put in a book, like, that would get me in trouble. But after reading Pete's book, I went, oh, I see the perspective he did it from. I'm like, I could do that. So at first it was for Tyler, my son. I was like, I just want him to know what I did, what I went through, and if it never gets published or whatever, at least I wrote it in here. He can go. If he chooses to read it, great. Just wanted him to know what I went through, because life's a grind. If you don't embrace it, you got to figure things out. So I did it more for him. But the more I started writing, I found it therapeutic for myself as well. It was very therapeutic to get a lot of things off my mind. The other part that baffles me about the book is I remember, as I was writing, I started remembering more and more and more. But the therapeutic side of getting some things out, like there's a thing in there, and I can mention it now because I wrestle as a tag team. My partner, Glenn, he blew his knee out, and he came back like 300 pounds. And
wow.
And Vince McMahon's thing was back then, if you have time off, you better come back in better shape than when you left, because you're sitting home. I'm paying you to sit home. You better be working out. Well, Glenn came back worse, and we got pushed to the bottom. And I held a lot of that. I held a lot of that inside, and I held that against Glenn. And we eventually were able to talk about it. But writing it in the book and actually writing the words, "Get off the couch, you fat fuck," I wanted to say to his face, I never did. Like, I was able to therapeutically get it out in the book that way, but in a way,
you learn you can only really control your own actions and your own thoughts, as much as you want to help other people, which is so. We talk on the show a lot about the edge. You had the edge as an athlete. What does it look like to have the edge in business? I mean, what is it that you need to bring to the table every day? You've overcome, lots of changes in the business world. Pandemic was something that, we worked through together.
Yeah.
I'll never forget you delivering a copier to my condo.
Out of the back of my car.
Out of the back of your car when we all went. So what are those? Yeah. What is the edge as it pertains to business?
I think a lot of it is just knowing who you are, being true to yourself. And then we just talked about having the processes. I knew what my process was for wrestling when I started in copiers. I had to figure that out. I have a team that I work with now, and we stick to the basics. We stick what works. For me, with Dex, I don't look at it as Dex Imaging. It's Chaz Imaging. The people on my team, I tell them it's Jody Imaging, it's Magdalene Imaging. We're a team, but it's that entrepreneurial thing of doing what you want that works for you. Because what works for me isn't going to work for you.
That's correct.
It's not going to work for Mark. You got to figure out your thing and then stick to it. And to me, that's what it is.
One of the coolest things you said was, learning from other people and then digesting it and figuring it out for yourself. I mean, in the content that I share with people, I openly say, I was around content all the time. Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, Og Mandino. Those were people that were influencing me, but I didn't love everything that they said,
right.
And not everything that they said was a fit for me. But when you take bits and pieces and you make it your own, then you really do digest it. So you're entering another phase of your career. It'll take some different challenges. Give the audience a sense of what you want to do next.
More coaching. I want to get into some coaching.
So that means coaching in wrestling, coaching in business, or both?
Yes. Yes.
Good.
Both.
Good.
Like I said, I go up to the performance center, and I love that. I love helping those kids and seeing, it's like I said, details. And there's one little thing in the ring. If they take one extra step this way or a turn to the left instead of the right, it makes such a difference. And when I teach that to them, or I talk to them about it, and the light bulb goes off. So it's the same thing with coaching and sales. You may be off by a little bit on what you're saying or what you're doing, but if you make it yourself, and to me, it's about being yourself and being authentic. Because if you're going in, people read the bullshit meter right off the bat. So if I can help them and they can see that light bulb goes off for me, because when I go up to the Performance Center, they do NXT's live on Tuesday nights, and I help produce matches. And I'm just as excited in the back with the headset on and walking. I'm cheering on the monitor at the same time. And I did podcast yesterday with a really good friend of mine, D'Lo Brown, that I wrestle with. He was my tag partner for a little bit after Glenn got released from WWE. But we talked about it because he's doing the same thing, but with a different company now. And the way he said it is the best analogy ever. It's like those kids in wrestling and the kids, like my team that I'm coaching, it's like teaching them how to ride a bike. You take the training wheels off and you just watch them ride off into the sunset. That sense of satisfaction, you just go, this is the greatest thing ever. That's how it makes me. I get goosebumps from it. That's what I love it.
And I can tell you, being a coach, that the rewards are very different than monetary, So in our final moments, would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the icon that passed away just recently, Hulk Hogan. Any stories, any comments? I mean, there's a guy that really took it to the limit, if you will. So any insight you can share with our audience?
I only met him a couple times, but it was more like, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Like very early on in my career.
Okay.
When I was big in WWF, he was big in WCW, so we were competing. Really, the only thing I have to say is without him, there would be no me, because I grew up a Hulk Hogan fan. I had the Hulk Hogan poster behind my door.
You still have a doll? You have your Hulk Hogan doll, right?
I still have my Hulk Hogan action figure, yes.
Not to be confused with your action figure,
not to be confused with mine.
Which he does have.
That I have a brand new one at MattelCreations.com. You can go buy it.
I stick pins in it all day long.
Is that what that is in my back? But yeah, no, if it wasn't for him, I never would be able to do what I do. So he paved the way, and for that, he's a legend. And so many people have different opinions about him, but for the wrestling business side, the business would not be what it is without him. He's an icon. He's a legend, and he's
another example, and I think you're living proof of this, is that you're either for me or you're against me. And so today's edge is you got to show up genuine, you got to show up authentic, be yourself, and let the cards be where they fall.